Welcome in, everybody, to the very first episode of Steve's Sports Weekly Report. This is going to be a show aiming to cover every storyline across every class, every single week of West Virginia high school football. And believe me, this took way longer to come into fruition than I thought. Everything you're going to see here is self-produced and self-designed. I didn't want just a normal podcast. I wanted something that felt like a sports show to highlight the West Virginia athletes the way I wanted them to be highlighted. So we landed here. And without further ado, the show is finally underway. Up until the regular season kicks off on August 25th, these preseason episodes are all about getting you ready for the year ahead, helping you follow West Virginia high school football landscape like never before. On today's episode, we'll take a quick look back at last season's state championship games before revealing my top 5 teams in every single class, along with 2 dark horse teams I believe are flying under the radar. Before we get into today's show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a fan of West Virginia high school football. If we can reach 700 subscribers this football season, we'll be giving away 2 tickets to a West Virginia Mountaineer football game. Let's start in Class A, where a Dynasty met a state title newcomer in Charleston. Wheeling Central took on Clay Battelle for the Class A title. It was a historic season for the CBs, who bounced back from an opening week loss to win 12 straight games and reach their first state championship in program history. Standing in their way was a Wheeling Central team averaging nearly 45 points per game against West Virginia opponents. Led by All-State running back Kay Coronis' record-breaking day, the Maroon Knights captured their 12th state championship since 2000. Coronis is gone, along with several other key contributors, but Wheeling Central is still loaded and are most people's favorite in the class. Let's look into my top 5 of Single A and see if the Knights lead the way into the season. At number 5 is Cameron. The Dragons return a lot of last year's production, including one of the state's top running backs in Marshall Holland. They will need to replace Case and Angel at quarterback, but Griffin Miller seems to be the next man up, adding another solid running threat alongside Holland and defensive captain Taylon Brown. Their playoff upset over Wahama showed exactly what they're capable of, and with games against Clay Battelle and Pendleton County on their schedule, they'll have every opportunity to prove they're a legitimate championship contender. At number 4 is Clay Battelle. Losing Braden Ponceroff is significant, but they do bring back All-State quarterback Corey Cohen and All-State running back Caleb Hall, giving the CBs one of the best backfields in the class. All-State playmaker Cody Colvis also returns, helping them on both sides of the ball. And on defense, they also return a big chunk of that unit that allowed just 11 points per game last regular season. They will have to replace nearly all the offensive and defensive lines, but with a favorable schedule and a great coach, the CBs have a great chance to follow up their best season in program history with another deep playoff run. At number 3 is Pendleton County. Any team with Colton Roberson has a chance to beat anybody in Class A. He's one of the best football players in West Virginia regardless of classification, and he's paired with one of the state's top wide receivers in Travis Owens. They bring back their top 2 rushers behind Roberson, and their receiver room only loses Chase Owens. On defense, he's also the only missing piece there, as the Wildcats returned 13 of their top 14 tacklers a year ago. All that returning production on both sides and having the best player in the class is the reason they're my number 3 team. At number 2 is Wahama. The Falcons return the bulk of a team that averaged more than 50 points a game last season. Their playoff run came to a shocking end against Cameron, but they'll enter the 2026 season with plenty of motivation and some of the best 2A athletes anywhere in the state. Behind Reason Stitt, Trayvon Bears, and Trey Simpkins, this offense can score in a hurry from anywhere on the field. On defense, they'll return 8 of their top 10 leading tacklers and have ball hawks all across the secondary. They'll be tested with some tough games against Wirt County, Midland Trail, and 2A defending champ Frankfort, but I fully expect Wahama to be right back in the championship conversation. And coming in at number 1 is defending champions Wheeling Central. The biggest reason is senior quarterback Nico Cusick, who now takes over as the unquestioned leader of the offense. Up front, they return All-State lineman Don Paisani, while Division I linebacker commit Dustin Sander is expected to be taking a huge role in the offense this season. All-State linebacker Trenton McCardle returns to lead the defense alongside Sander. Even after graduating some elite talent, this program has consistently reloaded, and until someone can knock them off, they're my favorite in Class A. And that's how my top 5 single A teams look heading into the season. Don't forget to let me know below your top 5 in the class. My two dark horse teams I think could surprise a lot of people. The first is Wirt County. After finishing 8-4 last season, the Tigers return a large portion of that roster, including leading rusher junior Adrian Hartford and talented sophomore wide receiver Andrew Lemley. Replacing multi-year starting quarterback Tyler Smith won't be easy, but if one of the younger quarterbacks develops quickly, this team has the talent to make a serious playoff run. The other is Tug Valley. Unlike Wirt County, the Panthers returned their quarterback in Preston May, who was playing at an all-state level before suffering an injury last season. He's also got one of the state's top receivers in Cameron Sloan, and the schedule is a little challenging early, but if Tug Valley stays healthy, I wouldn't be surprised seeing them compete with anyone in Class A by the end of the season. Moving on to probably the craziest title game we've seen in a long time in Class 2A. The Frankfort Falcons entered Charleston on a 27-game win streak to take on the young Bluefield Beavers, who took a rebuilding year and turned it into a state title run. After back-and-forth blows all game, Bluefield's Max Simpson found Pax Calhoun to tie the game with 17 seconds left, and the whole stadium prepared for overtime, but Braden Tyler had other ideas, as he threw a 43-yard touchdown as time expired to extend that win streak to 28 games and capture back-to-back state titles for Frankfort. And while they return a good bit of production, will they be my number one team heading into the season? Let's check out my top 5 in 2A. At number 5 is the Logan Wildcats. After finishing 8-3 with a roster loaded with underclassmen, the Wildcats have a chance to take a major step forward this season. The headliner is Lucas Lambert, one of the top prospects in West Virginia's 2028 class, and in my opinion, the state's best tight end. Caleb Johnson looks to be the full-time starting quarterback heading into the year, and he's the team's top returning rusher, while Lambert leads the receiving corps, returning its top 3 receivers alongside Zoe Murphy and Gage Green. Defensively, they have a great linebacker core in Lambert and Bentley Williamson, and bring in man transfer Jake Endicott to help shore up the line. Logan has the talent to compete with anybody in 2A, and key games against Mingo Central and Chapmanville should tell us exactly where they stand heading into the postseason. At number 4 is Mingo Central. The Miners return one of the better quarterback-running back combinations in the class with Jameer Knuckles and Bam Coleman. Knuckles will only get back speedster Terrendez Bryan as receiving core, but they won't have to replace many pieces on the O-line, while the defense returns its top 3 tacklers, anchored by one of the state's premier linebackers in Tegan Hackney. When you return stars on both sides of the football, you're usually in a position for a special season. The schedule won't be easy with games against Independence, Logan, and Chapmanville, but Mingo Central has all the pieces to earn one of the top playoff seeds this year. Coming in at number 3 is the back-to-back champions Frankfort Falcons. Despite returning Braden Tyler and Brady Twigg, who lead a good group of production for the Falcons, they did take a hit with the graduating class. Twigg and Tyler should be the leaders on both sides of the ball, while the defense also returns All-State linebacker Gunnar Bradshaw. With a couple great two-way linemen led by Anthony Smith and Knox Kimball, they should extend the Falcons' 28-game win streak. But carrying that into the season puts a target on their back, and they'll be tested. Between a difficult out-of-state schedule, Independence, and Class A powerhouse Wahama, Frankfort won't have an easy path back to Charleston. Even so, they've earned the benefit of the doubt, and I think they have as good a chance as anyone to raise that 2A title again at the end of the season. At number 2 is Independence. They return one of the state's best offensive lines, a 2-time All-State junior quarterback in Brock Green, and an outstanding receiving corps led by sophomore KJ Vyers and Oak Hill transfer Carson Treadway. Defensively, they probably have the most dangerous pass rush in the entire state after adding Carson Treadway to play opposite a 2A Defensive Player of the Year, Isaiah Conley. The biggest challenge won't be talent, it'll be surviving what I believe is one of the toughest schedules in West Virginia. With games against Bluefield, Frankfort, and several quality out-of-state opponents, if they navigate that schedule, they'll absolutely be a championship contender. And topping my list at number 1 in Class 2A is the runner-up Bluefield Beavers. I truly believe this is one of the most talented rosters in all of West Virginia. Max Simpson is one of the state's elite quarterbacks, Pax Calhoun is a Division I caliber receiver, and Jeremiah Jones has emerged as one of the top backs in the state. Defensively, they might be the most complete unit in all of 2A. adding transfer linemen Sean Dow and Zion Pitts to pair with Ethan Thompson up front, while the linebackers return two of the best in 2A with Jeremiah Jones and Chadney Stanback. The secondary brings back Carl Lee Award winner Jaleel Jones, solidifying all-state players at every level of this Beavers defense. This was a young football team last year, and they took their lumps early against some of the best programs in the state. But by the end of the season, they were just 17 seconds away from forcing overtime in the state championship. Nearly every major contributor is back, as well as some high-level transfers. Their schedule was tough with two good Virginia teams, including rival Graham, as well as defending 3A champion Princeton and number 2 on my preseason list, Independence. These 5 teams in AA I feel could be ranked in a few different ways, so let me know below how you rank this class. As for my dark horses of 2A, there are some fun teams that just missed the top 5, including Roane County. The Raiders finished the regular season 9-1 and feature one of the state's most explosive rushing attacks behind Javon Letourneau. They'll add Calhoun County quarterback Brennan Carpenter into the mix this season, making them even harder to defend. Their biggest tests come early, so we'll find out quickly whether this team is ready to challenge the top teams in the class, but I like this Raiders team a lot. The other dark horse is Philip Barber. Like Roane County, the Colts are built around a dominant rushing attack led by Landon Carpenter. They'll face one of the toughest opening stretches in the state with 4 3A opponents and a 4A opponent before settling into league play. If they survive that early schedule, don't be surprised if Philip Barber becomes a dangerous playoff team come November. Now let's check out the absolutely loaded 3A class. The Princeton Tigers and Nitro Wildcats delivered another instant classic in the Class 3A state championship. Both teams were loaded with Division I talent, and they absolutely lived up to the hype. After a back-and-forth game, Nitro scored with just 1:17 remaining to make the score 36-35. They would go for 2 in the win, but would come up short. That would let the Tigers kneel out the clock. Malser scored all 5 of Princeton's touchdowns, leading the Tigers to their first state championship in program history and solidifying his Kennedy Award season. Brad Malser and his future WU teammate Malachi Thompson put on a show, combining for more than 360 total yards and 6 touchdowns. The championship game was unforgettable, but both rosters look much different heading into 2026, and let's see if either made my top 5 heading into the season. Coming in at number 5 is Chapmanville Regional. The Tigers are coming off the best season in program history after knocking off undefeated Bridgeport in one of the biggest playoff upsets we've seen in years. But they don't seem done after just one statement run. Junior quarterback Dakota Dalton is back after an outstanding sophomore season, and he gets a major weapon with transfer Kai Martin, who should immediately step into the number 1 receiver role alongside the young Easton Bender. They have a great line headed by 2-way stars Jackson Topping and David Browning, and return their top linebacker Austin Killen. I don't expect much of a fall off despite losing a solid group of seniors. They do have a tough schedule with games against Princeton, Logan, and Mingo Central, but this is a talented team and they shouldn't be overlooked. Coming in at number 4 is North Marion. The Huskies finished 9-1 in the regular season before reaching the quarterfinals, and while replacing Cole Morris and Toby Michael in the backfield won't be easy, they return one of the better offensive lines in Class 3A. 1,000-yard junior running back Brian Poindexter Jr. is ready for an even bigger role this season, and sophomore quarterback Colson Brown is a player I'm really excited to watch. He hasn't played a ton of varsity football yet, but he's got the arm talent to be one of the breakout players in the state. He'll return Fairmont State target Blake Johnson at wide receiver, which should help him settle into the varsity action. The defense should take a big jump, bringing in Parker Bigelow at linebacker, making this Huskies team one of the more intriguing all-around teams this season. At number 3 is defending state champion Princeton. Even after graduating stars like Kennedy winner Brad Malser, All-State quarterback Chance Barker, and several other key contributors, I still can't overlook the talent that's on this roster. Jake Belcher takes over at quarterback, and the skill players are loaded with underclassmen like Alex Cox and Aaron Hood Jr. Despite replacing some talent in the skill room, they have one of the better trenches in 3A led by Marshall commit Landon Moore. They will play one of the toughest schedules in the class as well, but I have a lot of faith in Nathan Tanner, who's in his second year leading the Tigers. These guys have breakout players all over the field. And coming in at number 2 is the Bridgeport Indians. The Indians return nearly every major skill player from a team that finished the regular season undefeated. Before their shocking playoff loss to Chapmanville, Bridgeport was averaging 55 points a game while allowing just 12. The mixture of the unique offense and one of the more talented defenses in the state makes Bridgeport hard to beat. And guys like Gavin Williams, Gabe Martin, and Aiden Corby all fit this team's identity perfectly. They won multiple 7-on-7 events this summer, which isn't even the strength of this team and speaks volumes to the level of athletes they have. Their schedule was anything but easy, with games against Martinsburg, Philip Barber, and Maryland powerhouse Fort Hill, but if Bridgeport gets through that stretch, I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing for another state championship. And coming in at number 1, Herbert Hoover. The Huskies are coming off a 9-3 season and may have assembled one of the most talented rosters in the state. After adding players like David Robinson Jr. to Ray Rush, Stephen Kinney, and TK Porter to a team that was already loaded last year. They return All-State quarterback Peyton Grigsby and his abundance of receivers, including his favorite red zone target Lance Williams. They also add the intriguing 6'3", 2029 tight end prospect Aiden Barnett, and on defense they have arguably the best secondary in the state, led by Shannon Mitchell and Noshawn Hampton. Jashawn Walker is also one of the best edge rushers in 3A, making this one of the more complete rosters in the entire class. The schedule will tell us everything we need to know. 4A matchups against Huntington, Woodrow Wilson, and Parkersburg, while also playing Fairmont Senior, Princeton, and South Charleston from the top 3A teams. They will answer any questions this talented team needs answers to. This top 5 was probably my hardest to rank. I changed it around multiple times before settling on this order, so let me know below how you would rank this loaded 3A class. As for my dark horse teams, we'll start with Elkins. The Tigers return one of the most dangerous backfields in West Virginia with Seth Robinson and Jaden Hatfield, and if they establish the run, they're capable of beating just about anyone in Class 3A. Outside of North Marion and Fairmont Senior, their schedule isn't the hardest to navigate, and I wouldn't really be surprised if Elkins is a top 5 seed come playoff time. The other dark horse is South Charleston, and this one might surprise some people after last year's 2-8 record, but this roster looks completely different now. The Eagles already had one of the state's best offensive lines with Division I commits Morgan Watts and Elijah Balsley. Then they added elite talent across the board, including running back Malachi Holt, DB David Hill, and perhaps the most talked about young prospect in West Virginia football, number 1 player in West Virginia 2029 class, edge player Tremel Musgrove. So don't let last year's record fool you. South Charleston has the talent to become one of the biggest turnaround stories in the state. Now let's wrap things up with Class 4A. In the state championship, familiar title contender Martinsburg took on Morgantown in a matchup of West Virginia Blue Bloods. Martinsburg beat Morgantown in the regular season 34-6, but the Mohegans had their way behind the legs and arm of star quarterback Maddox Twig. They'd hold off the late Bulldog surge to capture their first state title in 20 years in a 28-21 thriller. Maddox Twig took the state by storm, and Coach Beiser solidified himself as one of the best coaches in the state. Do the Mohegans keep that top spot heading into the season? Let's check out my top 5 in Class 4A. At number 5 is George Washington. The Patriots lose a few important seniors, but they return perhaps the biggest piece of all in sophomore running back Jaden Black. Running behind an experienced offensive line, Black should once again be one of the most productive backs in the state. They will break in a new starting quarterback, but have all the pieces to make whoever takes snaps have an easy job. Defensively, additions like Tavion Woods, Devon Brockman, and DJ Spencer give George Washington plenty of talent, while Marshall commit James Payne should be one of the best two-way trench players in the entire state. The Patriots have tough matchups against Princeton and Huntington, but I still expect them to finish among the top teams in Class 4A. At number 4, the aforementioned Huntington Highlanders. Coach Billy Seals has built one of the premier programs in West Virginia, not only by winning football games, but by consistently developing college-level talent. He'll replace several standout linemen, which won't be easy, but the Highlanders return almost all their skill production with Andreas Reese, the Okonkwo brothers, and Dante Newsome, while the defense returns captain Elias King at linebacker, which all should help them break in the sophomore quarterback Mark Midkiff as the full-time starter. If the offensive line develops the way Huntington's lines usually do, don't be surprised if this team finishes as one of the top seeds come playoff time. At number 3 is University. The Hawks have all the pieces to compete for a state title. All-State quarterback Harrison Helbig is the #1 quarterback prospect in West Virginia's 2027 class, and will keep 3 of his top 4 wide receivers from last year, including Hayden George and KK Lewis. The O-line is anchored by #1 2027 prospect and Virginia Tech commit Luke Bram, while the defense returns almost everyone in the secondary. They do lose linebacker of the year Marcos Kaniska. They still should be in good hands with Brody Keeler returning. The Hawks don't play Martinsburg this season, but road trips to Spring Mills, Jefferson, and Morgantown will tell us exactly where they stand in the championship race. Coming in at #2 on my preseason list is the defending state champs, Morgantown. The Mohegans do return the most important piece from the title team a year ago, All-State quarterback and J.R. House Award winner Maddox Twig. They will lose his top 2 rushers and his top 3 receivers, but they bring in some help in the form of Rudy Carullo and Lyric Blake. The defense will return stars at each level, led by linebacker Brooks King, and with Beiser being one of the top defensive minds in West Virginia, I expect them to be among the best in the state again. The schedule has some marquee matchups, including the game of the year hosting Martinsburg and an end-of-the-year game hosting crosstown rival University. Maddox Twig is someone I've said countless times is the best quarterback prospect to ever come out of the state, and with a talent like that, they have every chance at repeating as state champs again this year. And coming in at #1, the Martinsburg Bulldogs. To me, this is the best roster top to bottom in the state. They have the top quarterback wide receiver duo in Brian Dick and Boston Todd. They return their top 2 running backs and 4 of their top 5 wide receivers. Now they'll even have one of the bigger offensive lines in the state thanks to transfers, and on defense, they have, in my opinion, one of the best secondaries and pass rushes in the state. This team is one of the more complete football teams in Martinsburg's recent history, and while I do think it could be another instance where they aren't the #1 seed due to out-of-state opponents, they will be the most tested team in the entire state. They'll play Canada's premier high school football program, a top 25 running back in the country from Canisius, New York, and Morgantown on the road, which should be game of the year in West Virginia. But I think this team is as talented as they've ever been from a complete roster standpoint, and I think they'll be on a crash course for Charleston. The 4A Top 5 features 5 teams with legitimate championship level rosters and some of the most talent-packed teams in the state. My dark horses of 4A are 2 teams people counted out heading into the summer, but a lot of things have changed since then. Starting with Spring Mills. This program has become one of the more consistent winners in the state. Many people expected this season to be a rebuilding year, but the addition of quarterback Chaz Milburn completely changed the conversation. Milburn brings experience, confidence, and one of the best arms in West Virginia. He's surrounded by an athletic group of skilled players and a giant young offensive line that seems to improve every time I watch them. The Cardinals face an absolutely loaded schedule with games against Martinsburg, Morgantown, University, and a tough opener versus Jefferson, but they'll be a difficult out for anybody come playoff time. My other 4A dark horse is Cabell Midland. After finishing just 1-9 last season, this might surprise some people, but I think the Knights are much better than that record suggests. They return one of the better offensive and defensive lines in the class, led by Army commit, tight end, and edge Keon Shelton, and welcome explosive athlete Carson Christian back from Ohio. He gives him a true game changer to pair with Logan Shaw in the backfield. This schedule is much more manageable this season, and if everything comes together, I honestly wouldn't be shocked to see Cabell Midland finish 7-3 or better heading into the postseason. And that's going to wrap up the very first episode of Steve Sports Weekly Report. In the next episode, we're going to be going over all my award watch lists for every single award in West Virginia, as well as 5 games that are going to shape each class in West Virginia. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share with a West Virginia high school football fan to help grow this channel. As always, I'll see you next time and stay blessed.